What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here with you all. I'm back in the Airbnb. It is officially over. Day one of the Steelers training camp is in the books, and we have a lot to talk about because we learned a lot today. If you didn't see the quick rewind, make sure to check that out. Lots of good stuff. It was so hot today, I had to bring out the muscle shirt because otherwise, I think, would have baked. So I had to, and I still was really hot because it was an absolute scorcher today. It was about 92 degrees by the end of practice, felt about mid 90s, and you could see the guys were laboring by the end of it. Some of them train in the South, some of them are from the South, so it doesn't hit quite the same. But trust me, it is hot out there in Latrobe. And so that is something that I think is always a good factor when you were looking at why you moved it back, right? You moved this training camp back from 10:30-ish to 1:55, and that is one thing that Mike Tomlin wanted. He wanted to have a hotter training camp, and well, he got it. Week one. They're going to get it tomorrow too, because it's going to be a scorcher as well tomorrow. But let's talk about some other things today that I noticed. Obviously, the big thing of the day was Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey playing a little bit of safety, a little bit of nickel, even sprucing in outside corner. I mean, he was all over the place. And this guy really is your versatile kind of Swiss Army knife. Jalen Ramsey is such a fun player in that regard. This guy looks like a really good athlete still. He was fluid in and out of his breaks. He was able to still stick in man coverage. When I watched him kind of soloing people up, this dude really did a nice job of staying in phase with his guy. And so this to me is kind of your do it all player. In base, he was in at safety, which is something to think about. In nickel, he was in the nickel. And then different times they would bring on Juan Thornhill kind of as needed, and they would put him at outside corner. It would depend on where they thought the biggest weapon was. Today, we didn't see him go up against DK Metcalf. We saw Joey Porter Jr. take that task. I'm sure we're going to see him out there at some point. So I'm sure this role is going to evolve the further along we get into training camp. But to start, that's where he is going to make his hay. And so the Steelers really have this vision for Jalen Ramsey as a guy that can play all over the defense. And Darius Slay and Joey Porter Jr. are going to stick where they are most comfortable, which is where I think they will be on the outside, not really anywhere else. Juan Thornhill, I thought, had a really good day today. I really was happy with what I saw from Juan Thornhill. We're talking about a guy that has really good closing speed, was able to get his hands on the football a few times. He's looked good. He had a really good mini camp and he had a really good first day. Now, it doesn't mean everything. Far from it, of course, because it is training camp. And we have to acknowledge that everything I say, it is training camp, but it's at least a good start. And you got to start somewhere. If you're going to be someone that's going to be an answer, at least you got to start and say, okay, can this guy be a legitimate answer? And at least he's on that starting track. I also really think when you watch this secondary, they just were so multiple. For example, on Aaron Rodgers' interception, they disguised that. That was spot drop cover three. They've run spot drop cover three forever, and that was something they ran so much last year. Was that spot drop cover three? Well, they disguised it this time. Jalen Ramsey went in motion with a guy, which would tell you it's going to be man to man, and Rodgers matchup on it and said, "I want DK on a slant against JPJ," but it wasn't. They dropped out into cover three. They weren't sending PQ, who was looking to mug, was in an A gap mug look, backed out to the flat, picked it off. Really, really impressive stuff from the Steelers defense. And I think that's going to be something. We talked about that yesterday, where the disguises, the moving around the formation. TJ Watt was already moving around the formation today. He played over the A gap. There was one play where he started as a wide nine and then shifted inside into the B gap as a spinner and then crashed down the opposite side. Steelers were matchup hunting, and I love matchup hunting when you can do it because the Steelers haven't done it. And, sometimes there feels like there could be weaknesses to exploit on certain offensive lines, especially when you have to take Cam Hayward off the field. And they hadn't done that enough. but they did do it today, and I think that's encouraging. It wasn't just TJ Watt. We saw Alex Highsmith do it a little bit too. So the Steelers are trying to really mix up their fronts, mix up their looks, and mix up their disguises on the back end. I don't think the coverages are a ton different, but what I do think is different is really being kind of all over the place, and trying to disguise basic looks, right? Trying to make spot drop cover three look different, trying to make everything just look a little bit tougher to decode. And that's what the Steelers really have to do. So I think that's encouraging if you are the Steelers, and something you absolutely want to embrace. You absolutely need your stuff to look different and not look the same if you are going to run so much cover one, cover three. So mixing in cover two, Tampa two, quarters, quarter, half, things like that in ways as a changeup, really important for the Steelers to do. The other thing on the defensive side of the ball, and really the last thing I want to talk about, this is a really good way for Derek Harmon to make an impression. I know they didn't have pads on, but he would have had at least two TFLs. He had a batted pass. He was active. His motor was hot. Really good first day for Derek Harmon. I really think that. And so good first impression. On the opposite side of this, I thought Caleb Johnson also looked really good. This guy has some real serious acceleration through the hole and then build up speed. The first kind of 5 to 10 yards, it kind of takes him a little bit to get going. But once he hits open grass, he's gone. He has really elite speed when he gets in the open field. So the 4.57 40, it says he doesn't have that, but you look at the GPS data, he's ran 22 miles per hour. That is as fast as DK Metcalf has ran at points. We know DK Metcalf can fly. Trust me, Caleb Johnson, there's home run hitter ability in his game. And you see it on Iowa's tape. You saw it in person today. He had a run where I don't necessarily know if it would have been a big run because who knows, they don't have pads on, but you saw the acceleration. And he's already mixing in and rotating in, with significant players. He's going to be a player that's going to play right away. Jalen Warren was the running back one, but that's something to kind of note. The other thing that I really want to highlight is Roman Wilson. This team has a lot of confidence in Roman Wilson. Like they have to have confidence in Roman Wilson. The amount of playing time he got with the first team today speaks to that. We were talking about a guy that not only was first team in the 11 personnel, and he played a lot of slot work in those looks, but we're talking about a guy that actively played a significant amount of snaps with the first team in 12 personnel today. He was the second wide receiver. It wasn't Calvin Austin, it wasn't Robert Woods, it wasn't Skowronek. It was him. And he's a guy that has that kind of willingness to block, willingness to get his head dirty, despite having a frame that maybe wouldn't suggest that. We do see that from Roman Wilson. And the Steelers feel like he can be that guy. And so he fit in there along with DK Metcalf, and that was fun to see. Now, we didn't fully get to see the offense's potential. Jonnu Smith did not do any team drills today. He's day to day with what appears to be a minor undisclosed ailment. I don't think it's anything serious. But until we see Jonnu Smith out there, I'm still a little skeptical on how you mix Jonnu, Muth, and Washington together. But I want to see the vision. I saw the vision today with Ramsey and kind of how they're trying to use him as a ultra charged weapon to disguise things because they can play man to man and then they can throw you a curveball any other time. But I'm interested to see how they're going to use Jonnu. Obviously, we didn't get to see that today. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf uh, have a lot of work to do on their connection. Obviously, they are sweet mates, so that'll help. I think just getting to know each other off the field, building that bond. But the really important thing between those two is how can they accelerate their on the field connection? It's not shocking to see them having struggles early on. It is the first day of training camp. They've worked out, I don't know, probably once or twice together, not many times. So this is really new still. But like I just saw some details. There was one play where DK dropped a slant, probably could have caught it, but it was like on the outs of his fingertips. But if he had kept it flatter, I think that speaks to kind of chemistry and knowing how Rodgers throws his slant routes and what he likes from his receivers on those quick slants. He ran it a little bit up rather than flatter that I think Rodgers liked it. There was one play where on a corner route they just had a complete miscommunication about depth. And then there was another one where there was kind of a back shoulder fade type, and it wasn't really even close. So they just have time to get that together, and there's so much time. Obviously, they don't play a game until September, regular season game that is. So there's more than enough time for this to build. But just first day notes, it looked like the first day of them together. So wanting to note that as well. So really fun first day of training camp. We didn't get 7 shots today, but we did get some really kind of fun uh, things to review. I think the defense is going to be really fun schematically to watch this year. They were so static last year. That was so frustrating to me to watch them be so static. I wish they had added more, even though I understand they had some personnel questions because they didn't trust Cam Sutton in man to man. They clearly didn't trust Beanie in man to man either. But I think what they do now is going to be able to take this team, this defense specifically, to potentially new heights, and it gives them so many more answers to really good teams. This offense still got questions about the O line is going to be the biggest thing. Obviously, without Pats, it's just hard to evaluate an offensive line. But when the Pats come on, I'm really excited to see that. I'm really excited to see Troy Faltano, see what he looks like. I think this team, as they gel, I think this team certainly has the makings of a playoff contender. We will see. But that is the first day of training camp, folks. I will be back tomorrow to discuss more on Friday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bell for more. Check out the Steelers stuff, penlive.com/Steelers. Thanks for watching, everybody.